on vaccines, the president has been pretty critical of the prior administration's handling of this pandemic, saying you inherited a mess here. But when it comes to vaccinations, you are following some of the same playbook here. So does the prior administration deserve some credit for laying the groundwork?
Which ones are we following?
Well, for instance, former Trump HHS Assistant Secretary Admiral Brett Giroir has said that you're following 99% of the playbook they created on vaccines. He has said that the prior administration deserves more credit here for at least getting the ball rolling on some of these.
I don't think anyone deserves credit when 500,000 people in the country have died of this pandemic. So what our focus is on, and when the president's focus is on when he came into office just over a month ago, was ensuring that we had enough vaccines. We are going to have them now. We had enough vaccinators and we had enough vaccine locations to get this pandemic under control. There's no question, and all data points to the fact that there were not enough of any of those things when he took office. We are open-eyed about the challenge we continue to live under, and that's why he has been focused every single day and doing everything possible to get the pandemic under control. But there were shortages in all those areas which were preventing us from moving forward on getting the pandemic under control.
Does the administration look at the American Rescue Plan and say this is our springboard to doing even more broad-based, more bold, in the words of the administration, legislative proposals in the future?
We don't look at it through as political legislative of a lens as you just outlined, but I will say that the president came into office knowing that getting the pandemic under control, helping address and put people back to work, the millions and millions of Americans who are struggling to make ends meet, the 1 in 7 American families that can't put food on the table, that he knew that those would be his top 2 priorities, his top 1, 2, 3, 4, pandemic, economic recovery, pandemic, economic recovery. And that is what this package is meant to help address. And what I've heard him say, and this sounds consistent with that, while I don't know the full context of this, is that of course he wants to build his agenda beyond getting the pandemic under control, beyond addressing and stemming the tide of an economic crisis, because he believes that investing in infrastructure is imperative and long overdue. He believes that modernizing our immigration system is long overdue and is good for the American people, good for our economy. He believes there needs to be more done for caregiving. He believes we need to do more to protect our health, to ensure more people have access to health care. So there's no question that he views the early part of his presidency as focused on these twin crises, but he is hardly going to be done with his agenda and work once we have this package signed into law.
Going back to Texas and Mississippi, is the White House concerned and the COVID team concerned that the loosening or lifting of restrictions in those states will lead to these COVID variants to spread more?
Well, one of the reasons that our health and medical experts have continued to call for the American people to wear masks, to social distance, to get whatever vaccine they have access to, is because many of them of these vaccines have shown to be effective in addressing the variants, and because we've seen a spread of variants reportedly in some of these states. So I would say, Jeff, that our concern here is on the health, welfare, well-being, and survival, frankly, of people across the country, and in states where the guidelines are not, or where the recommendations from leadership is not following health and medical guidelines, we have concerns about the impact on the population.
In Europe, there are travel restrictions between European states. The United States is large and has 50 states. Is there any discussion of restrictions for traveling between states when different states have such different ideas about how to fight COVID? And would you encourage or discourage other Americans from traveling to Texas or Mississippi right now?
I'm not aware of any discussions, and I certainly wouldn't do that from here. But I would just say, Jeff, that we are going to continue to use every method of the bully pulpit at our disposal to convey directly to people living across the country, including in many of these states, that mask wearing, social distancing, getting access to the vaccine is the path to go back to normal. And that is how we are going to get it done, and how the American people can return to, believe me, I'd love to take my kids to birthday parties and to parks and to go to a restaurant. I haven't been to one in a year. You know, we all want that. This is the pathway to do that.
What does the president expect from the Europeans in terms of confronting China, which he calls a strategic competitor? And how does the president see the EU-China investment deal which they struck shortly before he took office?
Well, I will say first that in the president's engagements with leaders in the European Union, which were many of his first and early discussions, the relationship with China and working together in partnership and in lockstep was certainly central to all of those discussions. You know, in terms of the specific trade agreement or negotiations, I guess I should say, that was announced shortly before he took office, I believe we spoke to that at the time. I don't think I have anything new to preview or convey to you about that.